Hello and welcome back to Rally Point. It's bugging already. Apologies for being very late. Unfortunately, we had a few technical issues, but it's fine. The official report is that everything is fine and no one is dead. Please ignore the smell from the corner of the room. We're back on, and it's the Total War Three Kingdoms Ambush Battle Spotlight here on Rally Point. It's a bit of a special episode for our third episode. Three Kingdoms, 3 episodes. So I'm joined by Mr. Pete Stewart. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. That is how it works.
Yeah.
No more episodes after this.
Yeah, that's done. No more Three Kingdoms episodes. Would you like to tell us a bit about who you are, just in case there's anyone new to the stream?
Sure. To the newcomers, my name is Pete Stewart. I'm a writer here at Creative Assembly, working mainly on Three Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Hey mate, really good if you just put the mic in the box on the way.
The Rally Point once again for episode 3.1. Unfortunately, we've had a slew of technical issues. It's been a day. Everyone's very excited to go home. Thank you to everyone who has been working on it. Sorry for all of the pain we've caused for some reason. But thank you for joining us. It's a little past 5 o'clock.
I don't know what time it is anymore.
I think it's about 5:45.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about Total War Three Kingdoms, and we're having a little bit of a special for the third episode.
Yeah.
It's an ambush battle spotlight. I'm joined by Mr. Pete Stewart. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yes. My name is Pete Stewart. I'm a writer here at Creative Assembly, mostly working on Total War Three Kingdoms, which is why I guess you asked me to come onto the stream.
That is right. You've also previously worked on Warhammer and other things.
Oh,
yeah.
Since Rome 2,
Yeah.
essentially. But not Thrones Britannia.
Oh,
Apart
interesting.
from that, everything, yeah.
Well, there you go. I'm also joined by another content producer, Mr. Jordan Wright.
Good afternoon.
How
Pleasure
you
to be
doing?
here, as always, with you.
Now, you've been taking over the streams whilst I've been away as well.
I've accompanied. Tom's been putting in all the skill.
Well,
really.
a special mention to Tom, because he is currently sitting there waiting to go, because we're going to be showing you some live code today. Now, we've done a lot of events recently. We've been at Gamescom, we've been at PAX West.
E3.
I was at E3 as well, where we showed off the Southside battle. We've got a lot of things coming up as well. But we wanted to give a special mention to everyone who's at home, can't make those events for whatever reason. Maybe you're just not local, maybe you can't afford the flights, whatever. We wanted to make sure that you guys had a sort of a glimpse of what we've been showing off at those events, give you an idea for the kind of presentations that we've been doing. And although you can't have your physical hands-on, we'll be doing hands-on for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
this is pretty much what anyone else would have got from press.
Exactly.
You get to go in a room, it's all 3K themed.
Live vicariously.
You go on a
through us.
stage.
Yeah.
Vicariously.
Yeah, well, there we go. So we're going to be showing you the Ambush of Sun Ren. So we've got Tom over on the desk, ready to roll, giving us a big wave there. He's going to be playing on hard difficulty, and
Which will be fine, I'm sure.
we asked him if he was okay with that at the start of the stream, and he didn't look very sure. So, so let's go over to the gameplay screen now, and let's see how things kick off.
Quiet here, brother. Too quiet for my tastes. Something feels wrong. Shh. There! Movement in the tree line. An ambush is imminent. We must be ready. If we cross the river, we could escape through the southern gates. Or we could attempt to survive the ambush through force of arms. This hill would make a good defensive position en route, should more forces arrive. Prepare for battle, brother. And may your blade strike true!
Put us back on it. Okay, so we are straight in here, and you can see that Tom is going to have to be very, very quick here, because, as we said at the start, this is an ambush battle, which means that he's very much up against the wall here, got a massive force coming in from the trees, setting fire to all of that forest as well. So Pete, this is an ambush battle, and they've changed slightly from previous Total War titles.
Yes, as you'll see probably as the battle progresses, there is a way out in ambushes now if you feel like you're being overwhelmed. The larger reason behind this is because we've made characters such a big deal in Three Kingdoms. So you can see here you've got Sun Ren and you've got Sun Ren around. They are very important characters in both your campaign and your battle. They drive your game forwards, and so we don't want you to be put into a situation where you get ambushed and then it's essentially you know they're going to die.
Yeah.
There's no way for them to escape. So although it doesn't count as a victory, if you feel that the battle is turning against you and there's no real way for you to pull a victory out of the hat without sacrificing too much, you can pull your main characters, your important units out towards an escape point, which you'll see later on further across the map. And
Oh, that's good. Oh, you just software changes are required. Well, that's fantastic. There's just so many things that are happening today.
Yeah, Windows is slow. But you may have to take a lot of slack, like a hit. So to take your units out, then go back towards the extraction point. But if you've got a large force coming after you, you might have to sacrifice some units to make sure that your characters, or whatever you're trying to make escape, gets away unharmed. Thanks again, Win, for that.
That's very strange. Well, so as we were saying, you can see that we've got quite a large map here. We're going to have to try and get some of our forces across the river, as we're actually being told here now by the heads-up display. You can see that little marker there is giving us a bit of an idea of a tactical position here. It's a bit of an elevated terrain, which is going to give us a little bit of an advantage, maybe give it a bit of exhaustion to the enemy forces. But the main reason we have to get across this river is because we need to be quick and get as close to that extraction point as possible, because more reinforcements are on their way.
Yeah, this is sort of indicative of the kind of ambush battles that you will get in the game. It's sort of a scenario that we put together. It's where you're ambushed and then more reinforcements will come in to aid the enemy as you go along. But it is very representative of something that could potentially happen in your game. And so you see the initial onslaught there in the forest is not too difficult to repel. All of the enemy units are quite low tier, and you can sort of push them back. But as you start to progress across the river and up onto that high ground that you mentioned, you see that there are coming in from both behind and ahead of you, which blocking the exit point incidentally.
Yeah, you can see just on the mini-map there that we can see a few of them popping up. And we're going to have to be careful here, because we're coming up against a sentinel hero here in the enemy general coming from the extraction point. So these guys are very, very tanky. They're very good at deflecting damage, which means that we're going to have to use some of the abilities under Sun Ren that we can try and bring down that health as far as possible. Get them in a better position so we can take them out a little bit easier.
Yeah, the general you saw before leading the ambush through the forest, there was a strategist, which are very useful generals that are good at buffing and sort of keeping your armies strong in allowing them to use formations, but they don't fare well in single combat or getting swamped by other units. So, but this sentinel hero advancing down the valley now is much better placed to take on even the mighty Sun Ren, who is a very fierce single combatant and perhaps caused a lot of damage there. Maybe
so Sun Ren's a vanguard hero, which means she's very, very good at dueling other characters. Incredibly strong in combat. Not only can she take on those waves of enemies, but putting them up against other heroes, these vanguard heroes, is a good way of sort of cutting the head of the snake of your enemy armies that you're coming up against.
And she particularly does have the special ability Heartseeker, which let her. She gets three shots of it, I think, that she can just fire across the map enemy units and enemy heroes, although I would recommend that you go for the heroes, and just does a quite significant chunk of damage to them with every shot. Obviously you only get so many, so you can't just go around killing generals as you please, but it's good to use as softening them up. Then you can then send her in to try and get in the finishing blow against them.
So we're hopefully going to see a bit of that now. So you can see that Tom has put some of his cavalry in the forest here, trying to set up a little bit of an ambush. Essentially a counter ambush. Yeah, so essentially I think the strategy that he's going for here is to engage the front lines of the force coming at us from the extraction point, so that we can lock those men up in combat, use that cav to charge into the back for a bit of a hammer and anvil. But not just that, if we can time it perfectly with Sun Ren's Heartseeker ability and maybe engage the enemy general in a duel, we can actually try and take him out. And because the morale of these units is so linked to the general that's in charge of their retinue, if you actually manage to take out the general at the right time, time it up with the flanking of your cav as well, you can deal a lot of morale damage. Big hit there from Heartseeker as well, which is going to be really, really useful. So Jordan, you've played quite a bit of this as well. It's quite a difficult demo.
I'm not going to say I sneaked on a few times at Gamescom. Totally did every day. It's not easy on hard mode. It's not the front army I find that really poses the challenge. It's the secondary army in the back that really starts to get you. I did find, however, that the multitude of formations and the diverse way that you can use some of the units, especially the hybrid units, makes a really big difference as to how it kind of plays?
Yeah, so we could saw just one of those formations being placed there. You could see that the Azure Dragons, who are a bit of a hybrid infantry unit, not only are they ranged, but they're spear unit as well. So they've set themselves up in a position where the front line are in melee, but the rest of the units are still firing their bows, which kind of maximizes your damage output. A lot of formations will come with actual stat bonuses, but some are a bit more situational. So in that position, for example, it means that they can hold off that line, but still use some of their archers to deal a bit of range damage as well.
Oh,
they are getting surrounded now, though.
It's overwhelming, that line there. But Sun Ren is engaged in a duel over there.
She's very, very close to killing off that enemy general. We'll get a nice little zoom in on this duel as well. So this is where we're going to see some of those beautiful animations come in.
Good stuff,
so they've just started engaging each other. They've just come off their horses, getting into that hand-to-hand combat now. And you can see some of those wushu fighting techniques coming out. And you can see that she is going for a flurry of blows. They're just getting kicked in the chest and smacking down with her ability there. This is another ability that Sun Ren can bring into battle. Now this is a Flames of the Phoenix ability. It's actually very, very good at splash damage, putting them in perhaps like a massive blob of units. Very, very good. Oh, this just went into a different accent.
Very good.
Very, very good. Very, very good at dealing quite a lot of damage to the large amount of units behind you. Now you can see actually the morale is dropping a little bit on some of those units now. They've seen their commander die, and they're going to get a big debuff here, Pete.
Yes, absolutely, because it's like you said before, the retinue of a general is so tied to them morally and just in every conceivable way on the campaign and in battle. Once the general dies, the retinue will not immediately in battle, but on the campaign, etc., will start to crumble. Morally on the battle, they will obviously start to fall apart because their leader is dead. And in situations like this, it provides them a massive bonus, especially if you're feeling outnumbered, outgunned, outmanned. You just want to try and get through the general and then see how much you can do before having to retreat, if you have to retreat.
So then when it comes to a duel, if you win a duel, is that an additional morale buff to the rest of your troops surrounding you?
Yeah, for sure. It's like if the scales tip in both directions.
Which is really cool, really. Show power, take them down hand to hand, carry your troops on them.
It should be noted as well that if for any reason you withdraw for a duel, or the duel is interrupted by your troops, the person who withdraws will suffer a massive morale penalty both to themselves and to their units because it's cowardly, dishonourable way of retreating in combat. I don't feel too good about.
This is a bit of a bad situation that Tom's locked himself into. He's using his ability to try and do as much damage as he can, but the enemy general that he is currently coming up against is quite a bit in favour with the amount of health that he came in with. You can see that Sun Ren's doing a lot of damage, but she doesn't have a lot of health left.
Although he is dropping faster than she is. She might just pull this one out, but then she'll be in dire straits against anybody else.
But this is the whole point of extraction, right? So you've got a character that you've built up for a while. You care about them. Maybe they've got a few chefs, a few abilities. That she absolutely dominates in close combat. Do you put her into duels, try and close down the battle and win it overall? Would you save them, sacrifice a few units?
It's always a gamble. Always a gamble.
The situation is clear that if she dies, she's dead. You can't kind of go.
I think she's got it.
Very, very close to losing her there. But just as the Flames of the Phoenix ability came in, Tom managed to pop it off and get himself in a better position. Now she is very, very low on health. You can see just at the bottom of her character card, she's got that tiny sliver of orange health left. So she needs to pull out to a better position.
Don't make her win in vain, Tom. Don't do it.
I think Tom's got the right idea. He might be pulling both his generals out towards the extraction point. His army is sort of crumbling a little bit here, so it might be wise at this point just to see if you can get rid of
as much as they can. You can see that the balance of power is very, very heavily in the enemy's favour. It's not gone well for him.
He fought very valiantly. And those Azure Dragons particularly held their ground against insurmountable odds. But ultimately, it's just better if they get away.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that this demo was not only friendly to those playing on normal who maybe haven't played Total War before, but also for the veterans coming back.
Well, we made it
really
hard
to challenge them.
Yeah, we made it super hard first, and then realised that we've made it really, really difficult. So we thought we'll put it in a mode where it's a bit more accessible. But we did hear that people wanted a bit of a challenge, especially after. I don't know, after we've got some feedback, and so we were like, okay, fine, you want a challenge? But I did get some people at Gamescom telling me that they beat both modes easily, and obviously you just can't. Some people are just too good at these games.
Well, so obviously there's a lot of people who've been playing Total War for quite a long time. That's why we wanted to up the difficulty, make sure that they had something to come back to, that they're going to be a bit more challenged by. So you can see we're pulling out to that extraction point there. All they have to do is move that unit into that position. You'll start to see them move through that deployment line. You can see they're starting to run off now through the extraction point, pulling those very, very instrumental characters out, whilst the rest of our forces are laying waste to
They are left to
absolutely melting.
defend their fleeing lords.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of the visuals of 3K. Actually, after a battle, you see all of the. Oh, look at this guy! By the
wow,
way,
he's my new hero.
incredible scenes from him. The one Azure Dragon remaining, taking on an entire unit almost of spears. You can see the aftermath of the battles is really quite beautiful, with all of the lanterns stuck in the ground, all of the flags and banners that have been planted as they go into combat as well. Really incredible scenes, and it's such a gorgeous game as well.
Yeah, and you see the lanterns up in the sky as well. If Tom wants to take a little pan up to the sky.
Yeah,
there they
they're
are.
very high at the moment because we didn't have a proper look at them. This is kind of like a signal to the other enemy forces that the ambush was about to begin.
Precisely, yeah. Send them up, and then obviously that gives the game away to the ambushed. But by that point, it's too late. But yeah, the battlefield, the post-battle sort of carnage is. Yeah, it's horribly beautiful.
Yeah, something to behold.
Yeah.
There's a bit of sweetness to it. So that's going to be a big loss for Mr. Tom Hawkins here, but he did manage to pull out his generals. Although that's going to hit him on the campaign map, at least he's not losing two of his most important characters. And characters is something that that are very, very almost like they're a linchpin to not only your campaign but your forces on the battlefield as well. And losing something like that is a massive blow.
Yeah, this is true of both modes. Wow, he's
still
actually
going.
killed a couple of them as well.
Still going.
He must have like a death or glory sort of thing going on right now. Another one.
Another one bites the dust.
It'd be incredible if he survives. Yeah, in both modes, in both the romance and in the classical modes, the generals are kind of really important to your battles. In romance mode, obviously they're a bit more larger than life, sort of. Yeah. They've got the abilities that we saw. Oh, tough break, Tom.
Yeah,
but
awful.
Awful. Just
GG, mate. GG.
Yeah, no re. The generals have these larger than life abilities like Heartseeker and Flames of the Phoenix. But in classic mode, they're just sort of more like normal generals from previous Total War games. They have their bodyguard unit. They don't have the special abilities, and you can't send them wading in. They're probably good for a good cavalry charge, like a good flanking maneuver, like you may have done in previous Total Wars. Risky but good. But they won't have all these larger than life abilities. But ultimately, they still drive your campaign forward, because this entire era, whether it's historical or fantasy, is defined by the characters, all vying for control to try and forge their own destinies. So there's no way we couldn't represent that properly in the game.
All right, so we're going to flip back over to the couch camera now, so that we can have a little chat about what we've just seen. So more interestingly, that we were talking about the characters, we should probably talk about the characters that are on display here. So we had a bit of a glimpse into this faction in the previous episode of Rally Point, where we were talking about Sun Jian.
Yeah.
And these are actually the son and daughter of Sun Jian.
Yes, you have Sun Ren, also known as Lady Sun, who is his, from what I understand, his only daughter. Could be wrong. And she becomes quite a powerful figure in the Three Kingdoms history. She famously marries Liu Bei, who I think I mentioned this last time, who was terrified of her, because she was a badass. There's no real way around it. She's just
a very, very strong
character.
character.
As you can see in the game as well, she is the fighter, whereas Sun Quan, the son of Sun Jian, is the commander. Yeah. So he don't want to really get him into combat either. He's thinking of moving and moving things around and piecing, but Lady Sun is you don't underestimate Sun Ren. She'll get involved and she'll kick your ass.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about Sun Quan whilst we were looking through the demo, but he's quite an interesting character type. He's the same as Cao Cao in that he's a commander. Yeah. So they're kind of a hybrid between sort of like, they're okay at melee. Yeah. You wouldn't send them into a duel if you thought you were coming up against someone tough.
But they might stick there for a bit.
Exactly. But they also still have those active buffs that they can apply to the characters around them, and you sort of saw his abilities reflected in the retinue that he was taking with him. A lot of very heavily armored units.
Yeah, he's defending himself, and also but he's always thinking the difference between like a strategist commander who like Xu Liang or someone else, and Sun Shen, who is a commander. Sorry, I'm getting my terms confused. Is he can get into combat, he can get into duels. His aura gives buff to your units, and his abilities do the same thing. So like Sun Quan has Earth and Bulwark, I think, or Bullock, however you say it. I wrote it, I don't know how to pronounce it. And that ability sort of gives strength and defense to the units, whereas a strategist provides formations and is a lot more sort of fluid with how it works. And they can't duel. Like you cannot duel a strategist, but you can, as we saw before, completely overwhelm them. And just kind of topple them really quickly.
Putting a melee heavy character up against a strategist will not last long. Essentially, they're going to melt very, very quickly.
But like you say, it's like Sun Shen and Cao Cao are similar in that you wouldn't feel uncomfortable putting them on just by the front lines to get those troops in and get them doing maybe even getting into the fray with his units, but you wouldn't be sending them out. I wouldn't recommend sending them out.
And we saw a few moments there where the characters were conversing on the battlefield as well. So this is something that you've been working on as well, so we might as well give a little bit of a look at it.
The conversation system is one of my favorite things. It was so much fun. Essentially, throughout the battle we figured these characters are really important. And not only are they important in and of themselves, but their interpersonal relationships is crucial to the history, to the novel, and by extending to the game. So how might someone talk to someone else? So as you saw, Sun Ren and Sun Shen are brother and sister, or sister and brother rather, and they will talk to each other as if they were. They will sort of like jostle with each other on the battle if they're on the same side. And this will happen between all of you generals. So if you and I were fighting on the same side, we say like, oh, if that was many you've killed, you can do better than that, and then she'll say some witty retort back, like, so I count 70, I only count 4 for you. Whereas if
sorry, I thought you said witty.
Shut up. How's that for a witty retort? Whereas Jordan, if you were the enemy on the other side,
which you would be,
let's be real. Like, life imitates art, right? You were on the other side of the battlefield. It would be a lot more pointed and a lot less sort of witty, and a lot more sort of direct. It was sort of, I'm gonna kill you for what you've done, and you're gonna say, I'd like to see you try, or something like that. But this will also build on the relationships you've built through the campaign game, through your friends and rival system. Whereas if you're fighting someone who used to be on your side but now isn't on your side, you can say, how could you betray me like this? And I think I'm doing what I think is right. And so you'll see the way you've played the game and how your relationships have developed reflected at you through these conversation systems, which is why I really like them. I think they're really strong at sort of pinning together the narrative that you are making as you go through the game. Yeah,
and it's really interesting to see. We didn't see it just in this playthrough, but definitely if you have a look at possibly some of the Influencer playthroughs, or if you got a chance to actually come and get your hands on, if you see one of those characters fall on the battlefield, you're actually going to see them go into a murderous rampage to try and sort of avenge their sibling. Going to give them massive buffs, actually bring some of their health up as they get that sort of second win.
And it happens on more than one. Like for Sun Shen and Sun Ren, though, it happens because they're brother and sister. It'll happen for Liu Bei and his Sworn brothers because when they're fighting together as well, not counting the death, they fight better because they're together in the same army. And then, like you say, when they die, they go a bit berserk. You might start to lose control of them a little bit, but they will get a lot more powerful, a lot more, they will just be able to take more hits. But they are in a bit of a rampage, a bit of a rage, a little bit uncoordinated. And you can build this yourself through the game. So if you build a friendship with 2 random characters that you just brought together and want to get along, and they go up and up and up, and then they become Sworn brothers, that'll happen to them as well, and they'll go into a rage, or they'll stay really happy. And this kind of stuff can happen cross battlefields if you fight someone that you hate, for instance, or that kind of thing.
I think that's really exciting because it's not just because we've seen people sort of roleplay that before. Where you have 2 characters and you're like, oh, it's my son, he's going to be really noble. Oh, he's fighting with his dad. This is going to be a really cool scene or whatever. But that's usually in your head.
Whereas our streams, I think, show that perfectly. Where you remember Ulfric, Tom's Danish campaign, even going way back. So you find a kid, you build on it, you move through, you send them on some huge crusade. All your hopes and dreams get put into their skills building up. They die. You get crushed. Huge vengeance conquest.
It's all crushed in here, isn't it?
Right. But now this is actually realised in game, so you're going to see that reflected. So you're going to see the love that you put into the game almost come back.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is like we play Total War as much as maybe not as much as the players play Total War. I don't know if that's possible. And we know we do these things as well, and we see that you do these things, and we think, how can we systemically reflect that? And they seem like little things, but there are really cool things to sort of give you the tools, as I keep on saying, for a player to make their own stories, their own narratives. It's like, here's the sandbox, obviously, and here is all the things you can play with, and here's how they might all work together.
And
I
that's,
guess realistically, do you know the story of the Three Kingdoms? I only have a very loose understanding of the story of the Three Kingdoms. It's making your own one,
story
right?
of the Three
Of
Kingdoms.
course you know the story of the Three Kingdoms.
Well,
It's
yeah,
making your
that's-
own one, isn't it? Right? You
Yeah.
can be as accurate or as inaccurate as you want to. I
Exactly,
might
and
betray everyone I know.
It's about
Yeah.
authenticity that we say.
Yeah.
We give you a starting point in the
Yeah,
game of
yeah.
of 189,
and
190, and go from
it's
there.
not just because we saw two characters there who are almost predefined because you
Yeah.
start the game with them, right? So they're two characters who, one, did exist, two, had their own relationships. But you can forge their own paths and whatever. But it's the really interesting thing is when you get some nobody who is just, you know, he was someone's second son.
Twice removed.
Twice
Yeah.
removed. Twice removed son. Wow.
A lot of.
You thought nothing of him, but then suddenly he just keeps winning battles and winning battles,
Yeah.
and then he actually develops relationships with the other characters in your faction, and you're going to see his progression not just in stats and numbers and everything, but in the way that his character develops.
Yeah, developmentally,
Yeah.
sort of emotionally,
Yeah.
both with you and with the other characters. But it's also not impossible for a situation. I mean, it's probably highly unlikely, but it's not impossible that you get a situation where Sun Ren and Sun Ren will be on different sides of the battlefield, because that's just the way you played the game.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Not only that, but there was something that we were talking a little bit about during our, or well, not our, but your interviews. Something that was very popular with a lot of influencers, definitely, was the spies mechanic, which
Ooh,
is
the spies
something
mechanic.
which is going to also change how you feel about your characters on the battlefield.
You want to do the whole spiel?
Let's
on
have a
spies?
have a little chat about
Okay.
spy, shall we?
Right.
Let's all get nice and cozy
Yeah.
and talk about
chewing the fat,
spies.
aren't we? Might as well. We'll
With
get
the,
out
with the
there.
boys.
We're
Yeah.
all very left heavy, by the way. I think you should move over towards. I know he's a bit weird
I'm
looking.
taking
but
a
let's
lot
move
of
over
the
towards
sofa,
Jordan.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We good? We good in this
There we
side?
go. That's
yeah.
fine. That's
Join.
nice. That's
Yeah,
nice.
it's a good ambience we've got going on here. So spies, okay. So in previous, I feel like I'm holding court now. So in previous Total War titles, spies were sort of immediate action individual units.
Agents.
Yes,
Yeah.
agents. You would recruit an agent for that specific purpose, send it out. It would do a thing. It would win. It would lose. It was success or failure. This time around, we're taking a bit more of a slow burn approach. Whereas any character, essentially, theoretically, can be a spy, in that if they are predisposed, if they've got like a spy trait or willing to spy trait, you can make them a spy. But rather than sending them out and getting immediate sort of gratification by trying an action on an enemy army or settlement or character, you send them into the chosen faction's recruitment pool. So they will sit there waiting to be recruited.
Sit.
Wait. Yeah, to be recruited by that faction, as you would recruit characters into yours. So not like a unit, but like a noble or a character to be a general, or an administrator or a governor. And they will then choose that character and put them in a position like a governor, administrator, or a general as their man. They don't know that they're a spy.
Yeah.
So and then they will send them out and
Otherwise,
use
they'd be a
them.
rubbish spy.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. It's like a fake nose and then they'll send them out to do generally administrative, governory things as they would normally. So essentially acting on their behalf, doing things for them, advancing their campaign, but all the while feeding information back to you.
And
So-
more importantly as well, they're not just governors. They can actually lead armies as well.
Yeah, generals
Which-
and
yeah,
administrators and
so-
governors. You can put them into civil positions or to military positions. And they say if they're an army, for instance, if they're leading an army, then you'll have line of sight on the army. You'll see where it's going. You might even have line of sight if he gets high enough into other armies, where he gets high enough in the military. And so for a while, he'll be just feeding this information back, building what we call this undercover network and building his own personal cover. And then after time, after he's built up his connections, he's built up his own cover, you can ask him to do things,
Yeah.
or him or her to do things, rather. You can say, I want you to poison this army, like the water supply. Or I want you to sort of take money from this settlement and send it back to me, or destroy this building. And then slowly see if your guy gets caught. But if he keeps building up and up and up and gets to a really high position, you can do some really potent things that could possibly cost a lot of your undercover network. Like it might really blow your cover to do something like, assassinate the faction leader, or if you get made like the faction, you can do
What
some.
if they become the leader?
They can only become.
Surely they get so high up, they just become the faction.
It's not impossible, but it's like if you get to that situation, the action you would want to do is to give you the faction. Surely, but what it would rather do.
But
Like,
then again, all the power in your hand, right?
But it would
You just
trigger-
give it away.
there you go.
Right.
If it did, it was fine. You tend to be triggering a civil war, and you have to fight the loyalists versus your faction,
No way.
and whoever wins the faction.
Okay.
But then also, if they get to a position of power, Like, and if they've also built a good satisfaction in the faction that they're in, like if they've been treated really well, what if they start to like it? What if they don't want to do it anymore?
Yeah, right.
Then maybe they won't. Maybe you've lost that character and that spy, and then it gets quite layered. What if
Which is what you want, right? You want the depth.
if they get caught, then they could either be killed, they can either be forgiven, or and if they're kept in the faction, like I forgive you, stay with me, you've been good, or sent back to you. And if they get sent back to you, then this is where it starts to get really warped. Is they could be sent back to you as your man. It's like, you failed, you gave it a good shot, well done. Or they could be sent back and said, hey, can you go back there and spy
Double agent
for me?
No,
Yeah. And this can happen quite a lot.
It's not just that, though, because as we were saying, right, these units appear in enemy recruitment pools. There's nothing to say that anyone who's in your recruitment pool isn't a spy.
That was
as
the
well.
point. It happens on both sides. So they're sending spies at you while you're sending spies at them. So this whole notion that the whole like level of like the churn, as we call it, which is characters going in and out of people's factions and around and into pools and out of pools, is also it essentially is also the network for subterfuge. So the whole time we're trying to build in this we've been calling, me and Dom were calling interviews, sort of like simmering paranoia, simmering sort of uncertainty, because that's essentially how the history in the novel was. Like people like Lu Bu, for instance, he's a particularly extreme example.
Bit
but
of
he
a
was
bastard.
Yeah, a bit of a bad boy. He was very, very fluid with his loyalties.
Yeah.
And before he ultimately met his demise at the White Towers, as we saw at E3, he had like 4 or 5 different masters after Dongzhuo. So yeah, and then that happens a lot. It's like Cao Cao lets people go, sends people on trials, sends people, and it just kind of moves around. But people are still like, I'm loyal to you, I'm loyal to you, I'm loyal to you. So we wanted to represent that in the game by you never really knowing who or what to trust. But it could happen a situation where someone that you really do trust, the satisfaction is really, really high, and maybe you can convert them, but then you find out, oh, it was you? No, don't say it ain't so. It can't be you, because I trusted you, and then it wasn't. There's also situations where you could send an enemy general and then have to go into battle with them, because they're just an enemy general and you bumped into them. It's like, what do you do then? Do you throw the battle so they survive? Do you kill your spy? So
decisions.
It's a bit of a mind blower.
Honestly, like head-to-head or co-op campaign is going to be a body of lies.
That's the beauty of the one that we were talking about as well. Is that like, what if you do play a head-to-head or a co-op campaign and then you win the campaign, but you said also, I was your faction leader. I was your faction leader the whole time. So technically, I think that I win. So the spy system is has the potential to be quite mad.
Yeah, and then all of those scenarios that you've listed, for example, having some supreme general that you've raised from the recruitment pool and loved, and then having him stab you in the back and turn on you at the last moment, you're going to see your characters talk about that as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it will sort of affect their friends, and obviously it will affect their friends and friends.
They'll have a big old relationship issue after that.
I think we're friends, but if you turned out to be a spy, I might not like you as much as I did yesterday. But
well, you might like me even more because you think, "Wow, that's cool."
You were a spy. Yeah. Why here? Yeah. It would affect. Yeah, it will affect the relationship, and then if they leave the faction, obviously, then you'll start getting your turncoat sort of how can you betray me sort of situations, which will burn themselves out in the conversation systems and the general speeches, that kind of stuff. So. It's all very cool. Yeah,
all very interlinked, all very systemic, all very exciting.
I'm super excited.
Yes, interlinked. Self-interlinked. Now, all of that prattle that yourself did actually earned us
endless prattle,
Odious Falls. Actually earned us a little Gamescom award. We've managed to bring that back with us, so we thought we'd show it off as well.
It just came all the way back from Germany with us.
As you're the only one who's an actual dev here, we thought you can hold it. And
it's also come in the middle, isn't it? I'm just trying to get the light to align so you can read the word.
Yeah, you can see our lights and the reflection. That's good. Little diva light action going on there.
Behind the scenes.
All right. So thank you very much for watching. This has been episode 3 of our Rally Point series. We'll be back in. Oh, it's very sharp, isn't it? It's very sharp.
It literally could be a weapon. Honestly,
yes.
They did not think about that.
Oh, God. We'll be back in a fortnight, which is 2 weeks, if you don't know, for episode 4. Of course, this is
it
was episode 3, so this was the Three Kingdoms Ambush Battle Spotlight.
Yeah.
And we also talked a bit about characters, stuff like that. Thank you very much, Jordan, for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Pete, for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
I've been Michael Wheels Whelan. We have been Rally Point, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
And don't forget, see you soon.